Today, we are going to talk about why people quit the carnivore diet. Why would they do that? What is up, everyone? I want to talk about why people quit the carnivore diet. Now, I know why I quit the carnivore diets because of the lack of the prebiotic fiber. It wasn't because I was not in ketosis or that I had a histamine reaction to the meats or even that I was eating too much protein. It was just simply that I started to lose my diamine oxidase and then started getting bloated on my favorite things like avocados. But I want to go show you some other people's commentary. I think it's quite interesting what other people have to say. So let's go watch this guy. I don't know who he is. These are just random people, but I think it's very interesting what they say.
And after that first 30 days, I started doing cheat meals again on the weekends. So every Saturday, I would have a cheat meal. I would throw carbs back in. I might have a little dessert. I might have some pizza. I might have whatever. And to be completely honest, man, that's kind of what set me over the edge. Was I was allowing carbs back in, and it reminded me of how freaking much I love food and how much I don't want to take entire swaths of things I enjoy and just eliminate them from my life. I'm not making excuses at all, but like right around the 30-day mark was when quarantine hit. So we're stuck inside.
Okay, I don't want to go into that whole period in our lives. That was awful. But I want to talk to you guys about this guy, his comment. And I literally went through 5 people. They all say the same thing. I went crazy. I started craving other foods and I started going bazonkos on wanting something else. Basically, most people want variety, but I know the wiser. The reason why people are starting to fall off the wagon on carnivore is not because they're craving their carbs. They all say, oh, I did amazing and I felt good and, even got used to the meat. But then why fall off? It's the same thing with the whole fasting argument. It's because of things that people don't want to talk about. Now, I don't know this guy's particular case, but I'll just guess. A lot of people either have diarrhea or they'll develop constipation. And what you guys don't know is diarrhea is constipation. But then there's a problem with the gallbladder. Now, I had no problem with my gallbladder. I've never had a problem with my gallbladder. I've eaten ungodly amounts of fat with no problem. Most people have some type of sludge where their gallbladder, even though they might get an MRI test, even with contrast or CT scan, and the doctors will say, oh, you've got no stones. But they can't really see and detect sludge very well. And it only takes a little bit of sludge to make you even just have a little bit of an aversion to eating gobs and gobs of fat. Now, I didn't go through this guy's whole video, but I just noticed a theme that everybody is saying that they wanted more variety of food in their diet. And sometimes your brain is craving carbohydrates because you're not in ketosis. As you guys know, too much protein converts back into glucose via gluconeogenesis. It's not enough to restore glycogen within the muscle. It's just enough to put in your liver and in your blood, and that makes you feel tired and a little dysglycemic, dare I add. People develop things like issues with sleeping, constipation, loose stool, thyroid problems, low energy. Sometimes people become bloated on the meat because they're doing things like aged meat or they're doing non-grass-fed meat or they're just developing histamine to overeating eggs. Most people who follow carnivore trends, they don't know any of these details. It's not enough to make them feel gutted, but it's enough not to make them feel well. Now, a bigger problem would clearly be thyroid problems. If your hair starts falling out on carnivore, which a lot of people have their hair fall out, if your hair's falling out, you're not in ketosis. I don't care how much fat you think you're consuming. It's a problem, and some people have to go off, or their hypoglycemia worsens. That means they start having more massive dips, and then their brain starts craving carbohydrates, and people just do not realize that their body is going through this roller coaster ride of trying to find homeostasis. Now, there is that whole conversation about diamine oxidase. And if I get rid of this guy here, diamine oxidase, or your gut microbiome, this is bacteria. Most of it's in your large intestine. Now, in your small intestine, you have, that's where food is absorbed. Between the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine, that's where rubber hits the road. And if you keep having problems with those systems, you're going to start having issues with other systems like the gallbladder or the liver and the kidneys. And people develop kidney issues on carnivore. Nobody's talking about this, but they might have back pain. They wouldn't even talk about it because they don't know that they're dehydrated. Most people who do a carnivore diet don't realize that they're chronically dehydrated, or they're using cheap electrolyte powders like Keto, Chow, and Element, and they're using potassium chlorides, and it's just, and even with that, they're not absorbing the minerals, or it's not in the right amount. It is a science project of understanding your own body through experimentation, trying to figure out how much potassium you actually need. Not everybody needs the same. People have different gut issues, like their small intestine. Some people are super leaky gut and they're not absorbing minerals very well. Sometimes people are over drinking water and they're diluting their sodium, and you get the back pain on carnivore because they're trying to shove a bunch of protein byproducts that have to be filtered through the kidneys, like uric acid. And then people have back pain because of their kidneys. It's not a good look. But the reason why, and this, like, I didn't have the gallbladder issues, the thyroid issues, the histamine issues to going carnivore. My biggest problem, and it wasn't even about getting into ketosis. My biggest issue was becoming sensitive to foods I've always eaten, like avocados or broccoli. I could eat those things all day, every day, and that's a fly sizzling on my little zapper. I ate those foods for years and years and years, did carnivore for 9 months, and all of a sudden I couldn't eat them anymore. And I'm like, I was like, what's going on? Well, what's going on? I wasn't realizing how I was two major problems. One, I was losing the diamine oxidase. The good bacteria had nothing to attach to because I was just eating meat. You need prebiotic fiber, so the probiotic fiber has something to grow and flourish on. Ooh, you hear that? It smells like burnt fly. I know, kind of gross. That's a fly. But I always get happy for that sound. I'm not even lying. I want to go, and I found a video, a short on YouTube of a woman talking. I've never ever hear anybody talking about this whatsoever, and never hear anyone talking about the prebiotic fiber that you need in general when you're trying to survive as a human with a dysbiotic gut. What that's a bacterial imbalance. We all have it because there's heavy metals in the air. The water has fluoride. There's all these things, amalgam fillings and birth control pills and HRTs and TRT and all these things that mess. And with your, and of course, sugar with your, and smoking cigarettes and staying up too late. All these things mess with your microbiome. It's a thing. And I found it very, very interesting to hear somebody else's. And it's just a short, so it's really, really, really short. It's a minute long, I think, but it's very impactful. So let's make me smaller and let's watch this.
What say you to the carnivore diet enthusiast who is telling you that I've been eating nothing but steak for the last year and I feel fantastic?
Well, we all know people who've smoked 2 packs of Marlboros for 90 years and are fine. But does that mean that cigarettes do not increase your risk for lung cancer? Of course not. We know that fiber is a main ingredient for creating a healthy microbiome, fiber and fermented food. Now,
the only important message that I want you to get out of that clip was the fact that she was saying that you need fiber for your microbiome. And what she means by that is that fiber creates a prebiotic for the probiotic to attach to keep the gut bacteria in balance. If you don't get enough prebiotic fiber, your diamine oxidase, which works as an antihistamine, begins to drop. And then you become bloated and you begin to have a rebound effect doing a carnivore diet over time.
from a medical lens, it's making sure that there's sufficient amounts of indigestible plant fiber on the plate. That is really the most important element of that. Of course, you could be a carnivore your whole life and somehow manage to be fine, but you're an N=1 number. That does not a scientific study make.
So, what say you to the carnivore diet enthusiast who?
Okay, so this was the short video I talked about where she was expressing plant fiber in the sense of needing prebiotic fiber. All food that we eat has bacteria, and then if we're trying to grow bacteria that helps to populate the gut against things like microbes, bad microbes, and candida and parasites and things of this nature, we need a healthy amount of good bacteria. For example, the most common one, which is lactobacillus. If you're low in certain types of bacteria, you'll notice that you don't feel well, or you're bloated, or you might develop allergies to food or have skin issues because you don't have a balance of microbes in mainly your large intestine and at the top of your small. And you can see that there is if you go and learn more about the vagus nerve, or the vagus nerve that goes from the brain down to the gut. So now this is going to affect your ability to manage your mood. It's going to affect your anything that's happening that's inflammatory to the body, that if your gut microbes are not in check, then you're inflamed, you don't feel well, you can get sick all the time, develop colds and flus very easily if your gut microbiome is out of balance because you've had too much sugar, or you've had too many antibiotics, or you're taking too many pharmaceutical medications, or you're on HRTs, or you have amalgam fillings, or you're on birth control pills. I know. There's a lot of different things, or you're eating wheat, right? A lot of you guys have a wheat gluten intolerance. And as soon as the holes, you should have a tight wall in your intestine. And when those holes open up, that means that large particles of food can now enter the bloodstream. The body starts to attack itself. And this can happen with a bacterial imbalance. And then also your stomach acids become less lowered. And then you begin to have motility issues. And then people develop either diarrhea or constipation, which they're often the same. Those were just two quick examples. I would say that most people quit the carnivore diet because they feel terrible, but this guy's like, oh, I feel great. Everybody says they feel great. They don't feel great. You don't quit something if you feel great. A lot of people may not recognize their own symptoms of not feeling well, a dip, a little constipation. I mean, he's not going to say that. Generally speaking, he thought he felt well. This is just a quick video. Carnivore is a great strategy if you're dealing with inflammation for the short term, but for the long term, that prebiotic fiber, If you want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com. Book a consultation. Comment below and tell me if you have any of those weird symptoms I just mentioned. Also, check out the next video that's coming around. The challenge will start up in September. You can sign up for my course page, and I'm out. Energy! My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic, and this stuff is really interesting to me. Carnivore is not bad. I'm not anti-carnivore. I'm just anti-carnivore for the long term. And if any gurus are saying they've done it for a long time, they may be omitting some things that a lot of people do not even recognize as a problem. And I'm out. Better to go keto. Low carb, high fat. Watch the gallbladder, and I'm out. Peace.